Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This is Velga the Observer, and today we're going to be talking about the continuation of a character class design I started a couple of weeks ago. And when I say character class, you could imagine if this was a game. This would be like a class that you can take up, or like a way of life. The same way you could choose to become a warrior or a monk or anything like that. And this character class itself that I started a couple of weeks ago is called a Bone Priest. But before that, I want to just thank you all for clicking on this video. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks for coming by. It really means a lot to me, and thanks for subscribing. It helps more people find me so we can all enjoy this content together. And I'm going to now start by giving you a short recap of the lore from my previous video and the Bone Priests. The Bone Priests are a cult of people who practice only one thing, only one type of miracle, and they practice resurrections. Okay, so they are only practicing resurrections. That's what they do. They are a type of people who strive for holiness, but sadly are not able to attain true holiness. And that's all because of certain circumstances that they have gone through. These Bone Priests, they happen to be a type of people, a group of people. I guess we can all relate to this, but they are a type of people who have been through a lot of misfortune, you could even say pain. They've been through a lot of tragedy and calamity in their lives, and enough bad things have happened to them that they have been just mentally scarred enough to not be able to become holy. And even if they think they're just fine, what I mean by that is some people are actually like messed up in the head because they've been through so much, but they think they're fine. They don't know it, but they're actually not fine, you know? And what they want to do is they want to help people, and the closest thing that they can get to being holy in order to perform miracles so that they can help people is to become a Bone Priest. And now, why do the Bone Priests practice resurrections? Why, you might ask? It's because that's the only thing they can do. They can only resurrect. That's the only thing they can do. They are only able to attain enough holiness to perform only resurrections. But their resurrections are far from perfect. Their resurrections are not perfect because they can only partially resurrect. They can only resurrect certain body parts that they can get a hold of. Let's say an arm or a head or a pair of wings. A good Bone Priest will be able to resurrect something to have it live for prolonged periods of time. But cases like this are rare, and most Bone Priests that exist today are only able to resurrect things temporarily. So I'll give you an example of one of these resurrections. They could be able to only resurrect an arm or a leg that they found somewhere, or a pair of wings taken from a certain creature. And let's say a group of villagers somewhere in a forest are under attack, and a Bone Priest would be able to help by attaching the bones of a giant's arm to their own arms before they decide to resurrect that arm only from the bones, and partially resurrect a giant's arm as one of their own, and then they can use that for combat, to fight back the attackers. Or they could also temporarily resurrect a pair of wings, like dragon wings, whenever they need to glide down from a mountainside. And the reason they are called Bone Priests is because they are often seen carrying a bunch of bones around. so that they can do their thing, which is resurrections, so that they can just resurrect things from their bones. So what they like to do, they're quite obsessed with dead bodies. They collect parts of cadavers or creatures like carrion. Is it carrion? Carcasses. And they just dismantle what they get, and then they leave only the bones. And then they can carry the bones with them, and they can resurrect those bones as body parts temporarily that they can use for combat. Also, there is a certain pride that these members of the cult have of being a bone priest, and it's a type of pride that stems from perfectionism, because they can only do one miracle, so they can be quite obsessed with just trying to perfect it. And these bone priests are able to undergo pilgrimage in order to become a better bone priest. Ones who are new to the cult are still learning, whereas old-timers of the cult are able to perform much greater resurrections. Having said that though, no bone priest is perfect, because they're people, they're just like us, and because they have experienced a lot of trauma in their lives, that even Grandmaster bone priests, like really, really old and expert bone priests, they could just go to sleep one night, and their minds would just decide out of nowhere when they wake up in the morning, they would have remembered like a tragedy that they went through once in their lives, like a tragedy they never even knew they went through, because their minds just decided to forget that it even happened in the first place, when it happened at the time. It's like a coping mechanism. Like it could be something that happened during their childhoods or later on in their lives, but whatever it is, those repressed memories could just come back, and just like that, they can go back to just losing all of their powers. And in comparison, a truly good bone priest is one who is able to forgive and let go of all the trauma that used to haunt them. And even if they're able to do that, they will forever only remain a bone priest and nothing greater. Because whether they like it or not, the mental damage that they received has been done, and that damage is there to stay. Whew, quite heavy stuff. And with that out of the way, lore out of the way, I'm gonna go to CSP now. Okay, so we are on CSP now, and I'll start off by what we can see in the front, because there's something on behind her back. She's carrying something around, and we're going to be talking about what we can see first. So on the front behind her is actually just like ornate decorations meant to look like light, because she is performing miracles. And I think it'll be nice to have her just carry that to sort of symbolize how she's performing miracles. She's walking around performing miracles. There's a ray of light behind her. It's kind of like how when I see depictions of, is it Jesus? Is it Jesus or like angels? I'm not sure, but they have halos behind their heads, right? And this is like supposed to do the same thing. And she's wearing a harness right here. Do you see the beads looking thing? It's actually supporting her harness in the front. And in the middle of this harness is an effigy. And if you see here, can I just paint over this? Hang on. Right here. This is an effigy of the deity that they worship. And the deity that they worship is the god of grief and sorrow. And there's another one right here down below. It's like a groin protection type of thing. See this? As you can see, it's got bulging eyes. It's wearing a facial expression of just sorrow in perpetuity, and it's crying tears of blood because it's the god of grief and bloodshed. And I used to think that, well, maybe bloodshed might be too much of a violent thing for this case, because what they're trying to do is take power from a deity so that they can perform resurrections, right? So bloodshed might be too violent. But if I pair it together with grief, it's actually not violent, it's actually something sad. So it's kind of like the way it works is sort of like how the god of death is actually not a violent type of god, because it's not necessarily a god that causes death. It's more like a god that just collects souls after people have died, you know. So I decided to have the deity that they worship would be the deity of grief and bloodshed. And I wanted her, and the deity too would also, I would want to be able to just shapeshift to and from, looking like a human and looking like a dog, because I just think the relation to, well, at least I have a dog, you know, like it's quite a special type of relationship that we have, and dogs, when they grieve their masters, is really sad to see, and when people grieve their dogs, it's also sad to see. And I kind of like how if we just split them down the middle, the dog could be the god of grief, and if we're going down the violent route, you know, just in case, the one that looks like a human could fulfill that role, you know, bloodshed. And I made sure to have her costume look furry, like a dog's fur. See, it's furry down here on the sides too, and furry leggings here, furry boots as well. And I made sure to use the colors gray and red. And why gray and red? The gray is just to make it seem like an animal's fur, and the red is just to simplify, oh no, not simplify, it's to what's the word again? Well, it's just to show you that it's blood, you know, like she's covered in blood. She's like an animal that's covered in blood, a dog that's covered in blood. Yeah, so parts of the fur would be bright colored, and then other parts would be covered in blood, red like this. Get a load of this medieval bra. And she's wearing the harness. It goes all the way down here, you know, tied into a knot. And if you look on her shoulders here, there's actually another type of what can I call this? Strap. Yeah, these straps. Is actually her carrying this thing behind her, and I'll get to that in a second. But we're going to be moving to her weapon. The weapon is actually a specific weapon the bone priests use, and this part is like a crusher. And she can use this to just crack bones. And this part in the front is like a sharp knuckle type of thing. The guard right here, she can use this to saw bone or like shred flesh. And finally, the blade itself is just a big cleaver. And if you think about it, it's not necessarily something you can only use for like defending yourself against like attackers or something like that. It's so that they can just use the all the different parts of her weapon as a tool to perform resurrections, because when you can only perform resurrections but you are sort of like a gray area type of necromancer, you know, like you're quite like you're called a bone priest, but you're actually quite scary whatever you are doing. I guess you'd want to need like a gnarly looking tool like this to perform whatever it is you need to perform. But yeah, that's about it. She's just a dog covered in blood. Blood from crying tears of blood. And as you can see, she's carrying the head of like a humanoid looking pig creature here that she's planning to resurrect. It could be like there might be another decapitated body from a similar creature like this, but it's still alive even though it's been decapitated. There's no head, and she can just attach this dead head on that body and resurrect the body. And if she's a really good bone priest, then that will emerge as a new creature that will just live for a long time. But if she's not that good of a bone priest, then it will only live temporarily. So with that out of the way, I'm going to be showing you what she's got behind her. This thing that she's just carrying around, this huge thing. Is it here? Ah, here it is. So it's a big giant head. The head of... This is like their interpretation of what the deity they worship looks like. The deity, which is the god of grief and bloodshed. I'm gonna explain this right now. So the god of grief and bloodshed. This one looks like a dog, as you can see. This one in the front looks like a human, and so is this one, right? But this one looks like a dog with its big nose. You know, dogs have big noses, bulging eyes. Arguably all dogs have bulging eyes, but like you would know if you were to pat one in the head, they would just do that thing where they just look around and look like their eyes are about to fall out. But you know, I want to just have the god of grief and bloodshed to have a facial expression of just sorrow. It's always sad and grieving. And this one looks like a dog with its long fangs and big ears on the side. And I wanted to show how, you know, the dogs have like that one tiny part above their eyes that sort of just work as eyebrows. So like those things always move. Like wolves won't be able to do it, but they can sort of just move their eyebrows, like air quotes, eyebrows around, and these studs are supposed to just show that. Oh, it's a sad dog. And the head is sort of split in half, bulging into two, like that, like the left part of the skull and the right part. It's just like how a dog's head looks. And also a third eye. Okay, the third eye, like even though dogs see, they don't really just see, you know, they know, like they just know, they know how you feel, they know what you're going through. Like you could even say dogs have a superpower, like an empath, like Professor X, you know, like from X-Men. This is their third eye. They just sort of see through you. And the flames around the eye is sort of just to signify how, well, this dog, if it needs to go the bloodshed route, you know, because remember how I said the bloodshed thing was supposed to just be like a sad type of thing instead of like a violent one. But if it needs to go to the violent route, I want the flames to sort of just signify that, you know, like if there is a type of unfair death that has happened to someone who didn't deserve to die, this god can come along and just punish you for it. And as you can see, the fangs on the side here, this two long ones, not four long ones, two on each side, appears here. See, there's two on each side. And as you can see in the back here, just this long hair. So what you can see from behind is just the hair and then the four fangs just sticking out. And as you can see here, under the eyes, I'm saying as you can see a lot, but you can see here under the eyes, it's just tears of blood running down its eyes. Just like the human version. See? Tears running down his eyes. And here's another variation that I did. Like I wanted to just figure out how I'm going to draw this god of grief and bloodshed. But I like to just tell you, this isn't what it really looks like. and the gods are sort of just abstract, an abstract idea, but this is what they signify. This is how they interpret their deity, the deity that they worship. The real one might very well look like this, or at least look something along the lines of whatever this looks like. But whatever we can truly see is just like these giant masks that the bone priests have made. And they look like this. So this is the first one. And you can see the head of the bone priest here sticking out on top. And then here's her feet. And here's the second one with shorter fangs. That's about the only difference there is. But now we arrive at these designs. So you might have seen from my community post where I posted this design. I think this will be the final one. This one. Either I go with this one and I take out the ear holes where the piercings are, or I go with this one where people's heads are just hanging from the sides, from his ear holes, sort of like earrings. And I want this to also be attached to their backpacks, you know. And in the mouth, the mouth can actually close, and they can just pull it open by pulling the beard here down. They're pulling it down, and they stick their hands in there, and then they can just pull out a few bones, whatever type of bone they would need. And then they would resurrect that, and when they're done with it, they can put it back in there, you know, like. And bone priests who have collected a lot of bones, they would just sound like they're clunking around, like there's just something in there, you know, like there's a lot of bones inside of this backpack of theirs. And it's also sort of creepy how they could just be walking around with this scary backpack behind them. And this is the only thing you'll see, you know, like a giant head just like walking by, like walking away from you, or if they're walking backwards, then it's walking closer to you. It's just scary to look at. It's intimidating. Yeah, so, and I like the way I split the head in half right here, because it looks just like the weapon that they use. Here, I'll show you. See? It looks like this. And tears of blood still running down its eyes right there. And this is like a rope in between the upper and lower jaw on the inside part, where it's just to show that this is actually a mechanism and it works, you know, like you can actually pull it open and it would open. And then if you just like sort of like tap it right here with your hand, like that way, the mouth, the lower jaw will just close. And when you're done, when you want to use it, you can just pull it open again, and then you can take whatever is in here out, and then you can close it back. Yeah. And I haven't figured out a name for the god of grief and bloodshed yet. Let me know if you have any suggestions down below. But yeah, that's about it for the lore of the bone priests. What do you think, guys? What do you think? I think what I did is actually quite cool. This is actually quite a thorough lore breakdown that I did. It's only 2 videos. You know, I often just discuss things and it takes so long. It can take like, it can span across just like 4 or 5 or maybe even 7 videos, but it's just 2 videos and I've covered a lot. I feel like I can sort of just stop with the bone priests for now. Like, I have like little trickles of lore that I can come up with, but I'll collect until I have a lot of lore on them before I make another video about them. But the next thing I can probably cover is the god of grief and bloodshed itself. You know, the scary looking dog human god. And there are more facts about the bone priest that I left out, even though I did mentioned those facts in my previous video. I even came up with more lore for them, like behind the scenes. Like I came up with a lot more, like way more than I mentioned to you in this video. But I think the lore that I came up with isn't quite a generalized type of info anymore. Like it's such specific lore that it could actually pass as the backstory of a protagonist of some kind. Look, so I'll save that one for a time when I actually do decide to want to write up a protagonist that happens to be a bone priest. So that's about it for this video, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you very much for watching if you're still here. And thanks a lot for subscribing and liking this video. Hopefully it will please the algorithm so I can keep on having new people come by and just enjoy this together. Yeah, let me know what you think. If you have any cool suggestions, let me know in the comments below. I make lots of community posts also on YouTube, so be sure to keep on coming by to see them. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.